today we're talking about the cringy way to pick colleges, but I think it could be also retitled as "Don't be that dad" or "Don't be that parent."
We're equal opportunists over here at Lockwood College Prep.
Yeah, we've been adherents to the DEI concept for a long time. So, so we have some tips about how to actually choose a college list, but the fun way to talk about it is what not to do. So why don't you just tell your story, which is loosely based on some recent experiences.
May or may not be a father.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It could easily be
a mother.
Yeah, any parent.
Yeah. And
then we'll just kind of chime in, answer your questions. I certainly, I'm sure, will have some thoughts to add, because I'm the one who works more closely with students in helping construct a college list. Pearl's more of the financial aid expert, but her expertise spans many different areas. Yes, great at college advising stuff. She's great at folding laundry. Great at making cappuccino.
Thanks.
Great at hair and makeup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But
Valentine's Day's over, honey.
Yeah. Oh, I hope you had a good Valentine's Day. We sure did. Did you enjoy your gift?
I loved my gift.
Me
Did
too.
you love yours?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. So go ahead.
Enough of that.
Spin your yarn about how a conversation you had about someone who's midway through hearing back from colleges.
Exactly. Okay. So this student applied to 25 plus schools and had initially applied restrictive early action to one school, got deferred, was really attempting to figure out, should I apply ED2 someplace or not? And in trying to figure out that decision, the ED2 part, the father of the student was reading me all of these minutia statistics in this report, and in this newspaper it says that Penn State is incrementally better than that school, but last year that school admitted blah, 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 but most of the conversation was about which school's better, which school's my kid gonna be smarter at, where what's more impressive, what's the better school? Well, what's the better school? But between these two, what's the better school? Okay, so
just to clarify, by the way, ED2 means early decision 2. So you mean some people watching or listening to this on our podcast may not be as initiated into all the acronyms that are so easy. So no, I'm just saying. So restricted. So she applied early, and there's something called restricted early action, which most colleges don't have, but this one did. There's other ways to apply early, and then once she didn't get the results that she had hoped for, then that restriction was off, and then she was contemplating applying what is called early decision 2, which is a relatively new thing that many colleges have trotted out in order to pick up kids who didn't get into their their primary early school, and those deadlines are usually later. The first early round is usually in November, and the early decision 2 round, ED2, usually January.
That's right.
Sometimes later. Some are even in February.
Right, and in this instance, it was less about the fact that he was critically trying to figure out whether or not she should apply ED2 to this school or not. It was really, what my takeaway was, he was really farming away, and I always say this, but farming away any portion of what this college experience is going to actually look like, completely away from his child, and instead was farming it all to the schools. Basically, if my kid goes to this school, then they'll be this great. If my kid goes to that school, then they'll be that much greater. And I finally, after hearing it, and I was imagining the stress that was mounting, because you're putting the kid's entire identity up into one of these schools, into a school. Let's break it down. All of these schools that this student applied to, and frankly, if I had to guess, all of your students apply to, have the requisite amount of opportunity and classwork across the board, that if you have a slacker kind of kid who goes to the best school and just phones it in, you're going to have one result. And if you have another kid who is consistently, historically, routinely, predictably a go-getter, immerses themselves in to whatever they're doing and pluses it, makes it great. Why? Because they touched it, like they have the Oz touch, if you will, wicked reference. And if you take that student and you put them at the best school or the mediocre school or the less than mediocre but not as great as the best school, what do you think is going to result from that fantastic kid? The result's going to pretty much be the same. They're going to exhibit and perform greatly and do great things because they are behind it. It's not the schools behind it. They are the operator. And so many parents I see take that power away from their children. And it's shameful because you're setting them up for a lifetime of pulling their identity from exterior things, from the outside world. And that never fills you up. So I tried to educate this parent and say, you know what? These are all great schools. And they really were. They're all great. If she ends up at any one of these schools, that's great. The question is really going to lie with what is she going to do with the opportunity?
Right.
What is she going to do with the opportunity?
Yeah, the cliche that we say all the time is, where you go is not who you'll be. The dirty little secret that you don't really hear ever from colleges themselves is that there's far more similarities than differences among colleges. So whether one school happens to be higher ranked that year than another one is completely irrelevant. It's actually fairly common for colleges to manipulate their rankings, not always organically and legally. There have been colleges recently like Columbia, and not so recently like Emory, I think Tulane. There's a whole list of schools that falsified statistics and misled U.S. News and World Report in order to have higher rank. So rank is kind of silly. I always say, yeah, it's great if you worked hard and you want to attend a rear window sticker college, that has that name brand recognition. That's great. If you worked hard and you got in, that's terrific. But if you don't, that's certainly not the end of the world. And there's a strong argument the other way, which I think we talked about last week. It's I saw it discussed in a Malcolm Gladwell book called David and Goliath. And the idea is that if two kids who are equally talented and driven, and one gets into the Ivy League school and the other one doesn't, let's say they both want to be doctors. It's very common for the one who gets into the Ivy or super competitive school to all of a sudden get their first C ever. Like we had this actually with one of our kids who is at an Ivy, and she got her first C ever. She's not pre-med, and she was actually relieved. It wasn't that she was like depressed. She was like, yeah, I thought I failed, and that happens a lot.
Yay!
Well, it happens. We don't care. I mean, it happens a lot with people who are pre-med. They take organic chemistry, and then they get a terrible grade. And the choice is either do I stick it out and then possibly risk not getting into a great medical school, right, or do I go for the GPA and switch to consulting or private equity or something like that? Whereas the kid who, the similarly credentialed kid in high school who ended up going to a quote unquote lesser tiered college is more likely to move on and continue with their goal of being a doctor or whatever the case may be. Because they were a big fish in a small pond, and they had the confidence, and they had the positive feedback, and they felt good about learning, not just getting high grades. Yeah. So that doesn't happen every time, but that's just an example of why the tippy top highly ranked school may not be the best fit for you.
Absolutely.
So many people who went to Harvard and places like that who
still taking their beanies.
Well, I was going to say who actually, and we were with one last night who went to Harvard, who did not think that was the best school for him at all, and he's emphatic about that. So just because you get into a top school doesn't mean that's the right fit for you.
Right. Absolutely true.
Yeah. So how do you compose a college list? Like what should you do? And by the way, hello. Good morning. If you have any questions and you're watching this live or on replay, pop them in. So, Nene, good morning. Zaul, I hope I'm saying that right. Oh, Deborah. Past client Deborah. She had a kid who was definitely a big fish in a small pond.
who is abroad, if I think I didn't take a peek.
You can't use that word anymore. She's a woman. She's
What is a woman?
not. You can't say she's
Is that going to be
abroad.
defined in 25?
No, but it's certainly not someone you can call toots or refer to as abroad. Okay,
I hope
Stop
she's
right now.
doing well.
so you know she's doing well.
I know she is doing well. She looks very happy.
So I think one of the biggest things that you can do when you're choosing colleges is look at the outcomes. It's rank, fine, I get it, but whatever you're going to major in, which is a whole other topic, or the 2 or 3 things that you're considering, you need to do your due diligence about whether the colleges on your list, or find new colleges on your list that are reputable in those areas, and talk to the department head if you can of that school. Don't just go on the tours, because the tours they're fine, but they tend to blend in, unless Deborah's daughter is giving the tour.
Which is likely.
Yeah, right. Did she give one to Jeff Bezos?
Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I wonder if she closed them. Did Bezos' kid go to Miami? I wonder how good Deborah's kid is. So it's you're going to get more of a view of what life could be like at that particular college if you are sitting down with a department head or someone in that a professor in that area, that discipline you're contemplating majoring in, or if you visit the career center and ask questions like, the people who graduated last year in my major, where are they now? Who did the best? Who didn't do so well? How do I avoid their mistakes? If you do this with professors, you're not only going to find out this information that's important for you, but you're also going to have raw material to reference if you get an essay about why are you applying here, which many colleges have these days. If you go on a regular tour and that's it, you're going to see the same stuff over and over. There's the dorm. There are the blue lights if you feel threatened. We have a 36-second response time. Or next college you go to, we have a 38-second response time. Oh, we can't go there. Yeah, it's less safe. Here's the dining hall that kids don't usually use. Here's a $50 million underwater aquatic rock climbing facility. Okay, so fine, but do your due diligence. It's more about outcomes, and I think that's how you have to. That's probably the most important thing when we're working with kids one-on-one that we focus on in terms of helping them. Not spend 4 years as a diversion in college and avoidance, but use it as a means to an end. To help position themselves to launch for success after college. College is 4 years.
That's right.
40 to 50 years is more important.
Both of those things need to be focused on simultaneously when you're applying and when you're coming up with a list. Both the, wow, it's really cool they have a rock climbing wall, and these really cool things about this particular school and during the 4 years and on that campus and the type of people. And then there's the other part of this analysis, which can't be forgotten. What am I doing after college? And again, to the earlier point, am I pursuing medicine, law, where it is critical, less critical where I attend, but very critical that I have a 3.7 or better GPA so that I can be a viable candidate at graduate school level, because it doesn't end at the 4 years. Because if you pick your head up and you didn't get that 3.7 and now you're a senior and you're applying to medical school or law school, you're going to have a very difficult time getting into one that you're going to want to go to or altogether. So you need to focus on both, how is the actual college and what's the experience going to be